take any responsibility or policies?
I think our policies help, not hurt. Think about what they say. The vast majority of the economists think that this is going to be a real tough problem to solve, but it's not because of spending. We brought down the deficit. The bottom line is, how much does America owe? How much in the hole are we going? We're reducing that.
Joe Biden continues to put America last by shipping pallets of baby formula to the southern border as American families face empty shelves. She says this is unacceptable. Do you have a response to that?
CBP is following the law, but I would also note that we also think it's morally the right thing to do. This is a difference from the last administration. It is the law, but we believe that when children and babies, I should say, are crossing the border with a family member, that providing them formula is morally right. And so we certainly support the implementation of it.
Pictures are emerging today from the border where the Biden administration has been sending pallets of baby formula for illegal mothers and their babies, while American mothers and babies cannot find baby formula.
In 2017 and 2018, the president routed $13 million of income through S corporations. Will President Biden be releasing the sources of income that were in that $13 million, particularly there's attention being paid to his son and whether he earned any money from his businesses?
Well, again, the president doesn't have dealings with his family members about business, and he has released decades of tax returns, which is more than I can say for his predecessor.
Can you give us sort of a ballpark window for just realistically how many weeks or months parents are going to be having trouble finding it, or in-stock rates would start to improve?
Let me first say that the reason we suggest calling people your pediatrician is because of this question.
Giving any sort of ballpark window of time, basically.
As quickly as possible is our objective, Jackie, but it's going to be different store to store. This is my last briefing, and it is, Brian. And I wanted to start with a series of thank yous. I promised myself I wasn't going to get emotional. Whew. Okay. Thank you. I want to say thank you. I'm not going to cry about the press team. Whew. Okay. These people are already the stars of the team, but they're going to be shining stars in the future, and I'll miss them a lot. Okay. Whew. I promised myself I was going to keep it together. I'm not.
Why don't you take questions from across the room? Jen, I have a suggestion today for your last press briefing. Why don't you take questions from across the room?
He suggested the administration had been aware
of the formula shortage for some months now.
Is there a reason why the administration...
On the issue of the formula shortage.
Can I ask you a question from the back?
Please stop.
I understand, but for 15 months,
on the issue of formula.
And I'm saying that for the sake of equity, we should
First of all,
have
thank you
pressure
for your service, and thank your husband for his service as well. On the issue of formula, I think, if anything, this crisis has reminded everyone that this is
Simon, if you could respect your colleagues and other media and reporters in here, that would be greatly appreciated. Go ahead, Mary.
If anything, this has reminded, I think, the entire country and the world that this is not a luxury item, but
Do you, as the White House, consider this a crisis?
Well, I don't think it's about a label. I think it's about addressing directly the need that why he's taken action.
Of course, you said if it's for one family, Kate, it's going to be a crisis. But is there a hesitation against calling this a crisis if that's what it is?
I can tell you there is no hesitation against acting.
This is hardly the first time that there's this slow-rolling anticipated disaster happening exactly as forewarned, whether it's the exit from Afghanistan, the border surge. The Biden administration does not want to call this a crisis. You just called it a crisis. It's a crisis, right?
I mean, I think if you're a parent that can't get formula for your kid, it's a crisis.
Immediate question of if you can't find formula and you need it for your baby to eat, what should they be doing?
We would certainly encourage any parent who has concerns about their child's health or well-being to call their doctor or pediatrician.
About oil leases and auctions not going forward. What was the administration's thinking on not having those auctions?
Well, the Department of Interior, they have put out some comments on this, and what they have made quite clear is that the Cook Inlet cancellation, which you're referring to, was due to a lack of industry interest, and the Gulf sales were as a result of delays due to a number of factors, including conflicting court rulings. So those were the two areas where you've seen the pause.
You called out Rick Scott a little while ago in your remarks. Earlier today, anticipating your remarks, he said, and I'm just quoting here, that the best thing, the most effective thing Joe Biden can do to solve the inflation crisis he created is resign. He's the problem.
Resign, that's a good idea.
The senator added later, Joe Biden is unwell, he's unfit for office, he's incoherent, incapacitated, and confused. These are his words. Offering him a chance to respond to that.
I think the man has a problem.
Mr. President,
That's enough. Thank you, guys. That's a
how
wrap.
should Americans be
Thank you
prepared
all.
to pay this much at the pump? Are you concerned about a recession, Mr. President?
Combined income. We inherited an economy on the brink of a Great Depression. Millions of people losing their jobs, losing their homes, but even more importantly, losing hope. But look at the economy today. I happen to think it's good, a good thing when American families have more money in their pockets. American workers deserve a raise. All this concern, wages went up 5%. Oh my God. I thought that we're supposed to see happen.
Should you have taken those steps sooner before parents got to these shelves and couldn't find formula?
If we'd been better mind readers, I guess we could have. But
I know the president said more action's coming, but this has been ongoing for months. There were supply chain issues already. Then you have the issue with this one plant, Abbott, whistleblower in September, February, the recall. It's May. Why has it taken so long? And why did the president on Friday seem to say that it was new information to him? He said, if we'd been better mind readers, I guess we could have done something earlier.
Well, look, the administration acted from day one.
That is especially true when it comes to the climate crisis, which is why we will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work operating from the new norms, rules, and agreements that we will convene to work together on to galvanize global action. With that, I thank you all. This is a matter of urgent priority for all of us, and I know we will work on this together.
In addition to all of this, we have to subject these companies to some scrutiny about the safety of this and how we got to a place where we have babies crying in our country because they're hungry and the shelves are bare. We have to fill them immediately.
On the Energy and Commerce Committee, as well as with my colleagues in the conference, we are asking the questions. We've been raising the alarm to President Biden for months.
What do you say to the mother or the father sitting at home right now and said, I've been to Walmart, I've been to CVS, I've been to every store I can think of, and I cannot find food for my baby. What's their move here?
We understand how challenging this is. I'm a parent. All of us have experience with just how life and death needing to have nutrition for your child is. Right now, first and foremost, if you've got a particular challenge, you should reach out to your pediatrician, your healthcare provider. There are emergency tools, emergency issues in place.
I've led on this issue since February, and we as House Republicans continue to demand answers from the FDA. And unsurprisingly, when I reached out in February from my office to the FDA, we received no substantive response. Joe Biden simply has no plan. In fact, when Joe Biden's White House was asked about the shortage, they laughed. Shameful.
And that's why I asked President Harris to travel to the region last August.
A lot of parents are watching about baby formula. If you have a message to those parents that you can share while they're listening.
Well, 3 questions. I'll answer the baby formula question because all of a sudden it's on the front page of every newspaper, and it's important that I be responded to. By the way, I see Secretary Kerry and down there, and John, thanks for letting me into your old house. Appreciate it. John has forgotten more about, in my view, the needs we have for climate security than anyone that I know. Thanks, John, for being here. I want to talk about that a little bit.
And what we'd say to Americans also is look at the alternative. We all acknowledge inflation and cost is a challenging issue. What is the Republicans? What are they presenting as the option?
He likes to say the buck stops with him. Things aren't working. Is he frustrated with the circumstances? He's frustrated with his team?
When you've served, as the president has, as vice president for 8 years, you're pretty clear-eyed about the fact that leading the country means that the buck stops with you and that every challenge we face is on your desk. And he's very aware of that.
Could the Democrats in charge, and certainly Democrats here with jurisdiction over the border, could they really be in favor of an open border? And I'm asking you honestly and in good faith.
Of allowing votes in municipal elections only.
Right, but thank you. That's the point. Everybody wants to know at home, why would they allow this? Guys, they're allowing it because they're going to turn them into voters. They already are doing this in New York City, largest city in America, and this is the plan of our friends on this side to turn all the illegals into voters. That's it, folks. That's what's going on. That's the game. That's why the border's open. That's why they've dropped it. Look, I respect...
Reduce the deficit, literally reduce the deficit by $350 billion first year.
What I love that Rick Scott just said is that he's lying about reducing the deficit. I agree. That's exactly the truth. I grabbed onto that because he's saying, look, we're reducing the deficit. Well, all of that spending came under the Trump administration, but he said it specifically, we are cutting the deficit. That's not true. Those programs are ending. If anything, they've made inflation worse by proposing more spending, but luckily they've gotten pushback on a lot of their new spending.
Who came up with this phrase ultra MAGA? Why the need to kick it up a notch? Well, MAGA wasn't enough. I mean, why now use this phrase?
I will tell you is the president's phrase, and the president made those comments himself just last week, as you know. And so to him, adding a little ultra to it, give it a little extra pop. Go ahead.
So then who is an ultra MAGA Republican?
I would say people who support.
I was hoping to clarify something President Biden said today on inflation. He said his policies helped rather than hurt on inflation.
Take any responsibility for your policies?
I think our policies help, not hurt.
Does the president believe that his COVID relief package played any role in the increase in inflation last year?
The main drivers of inflation.
Just to make sure, like, what he's saying is the pandemic is distinct from the spending in response to the pandemic, and he does not believe the size of the spending mattered with regard to inflation.
Again, no, we have spoken to this in the past, Josh, as you know. The president made a decision that in order to address what was a
Department of Justice was very swift in responding to school board members who felt like they were being harassed and intimidated. Does the president feel that the demonstrations outside of, say, Justice Alito's home are those attempts to interfere or intimidate?
So I know that there's an outrage right now, I guess, about protests that have been peaceful to date, and we certainly continue to encourage that outside of judges' homes, and that's the president's position.
So today the president said that a majority of Republicans have signed on to Senator Scott's tax plan. That does not seem to be the case. Senator Scott said that today. Mitch McConnell had said that the party is not behind this. Are there any Republicans that you can think of or the president might be referencing that is currently behind this?
Do you count the chairman of the Republican committee as an important Republican?
He is the chairman of a committee, but if no other Republican...
It's actually a she, the chairman of the Republican Party.
There.
So Chairman Ronna McDaniel.
As far as Senator Scott goes, he acknowledged today that a majority is not behind him. He says this is his individual plan for this.
We've built a strong economy with a strong job market. And I agree with what Chairman Powell said last week, that the number one threat is the strength, and that strength that we built is inflation. So the Fed should do its job, and it will do its job, I'm convinced, with that in mind.
Why do you believe so many Americans believe that your administration is not doing enough to combat inflation? And do you believe that you and your administration bear some measure of responsibility for the inflation that we're seeing across the country?
The first is we're in power. That's the first thing. And you justifiably right, we control all three branches of the government.